Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is a very exciting one because I have in my paws, my greedy little paws, all four of the Chanel Tweed eyeshadow quads. These are highly anticipated, a lot of buzz about these eyeshadow quads, and I managed to get my grubby little mitts on these quads early so that I can show you all of the swatches and all of the looks that they can create on the eyes ahead of their release, so that you can kind of pick and choose which are your favorites. If you need or want any of these or all of these, hopefully I'm going to be able to help you before they are released and snapped up as quickly as we expect these are going to be. So being that I was able to get these earlier than their release date, and unfortunately I'm so sorry I can't share how I got these. I have my anonymous makeup fairy who delivered these to me, and I'm really sorry but I can't share that person's information without their permission, of course. So being that I was able to get these early, we don't have all of the information that comes with the release and the official announcement. So I don't have the pricing information and some more information about the formula and things like that, but I will be able to tell you I've been using these. I've had these for months now. And I will be able to tell you about their in-depth use, which are my favourites, and of course show you swatches and them being used on my eyes. So hopefully that's going to be very helpful. So for those of you with a very large eyeshadow collection or a very large Chanel eyeshadow collection, I'm sure you'll want to know what is special about these quads over the others that you have. Is there anything different or special or unique that means that you really need to have them over the ones that you already own? There are a few things that separate these to the standard pre-existing Chanel eyeshadow quads. First up, of course, it's that iconic tweed print that represents Chanel so beautifully. Such an iconic print for Chanel, and so much behind the story of the tweed, and now we have it in eyeshadow form. I do believe that these are going to be limited edition and they will be snapped up very quickly because of that beautiful tweed print. Second of all, the formula of these is like a gelée powder hybrid, a gel to powder jelly formula, very smooth, but yeah, not your typical powdery formula or sort of more loose pressed. These are a baked gelée formula, very smooth and soft. And then lastly, these little pouches. So each of these eyeshadow palettes comes with a sort of customized pouch. This is like a knitted pouch with the same sort of print, and it is each one of the different quads comes with a slightly different color of pouch to match it, as opposed to the typical black pouch that you get with a standard Chanel eyeshadow. So that is another sort of collectible aspect to these eyeshadow quads. So let's take a look at these in order. So first up we have number one, and this is Tweed Cuivre. Sorry about my horrendous pronunciation, I can only apologise for being a lowly English woman. So this is kind of like the most neutral of the four eyeshadow quads, a very beautiful like smokier quad in comparison to the other. This one is more pigmented than lots of the others. You know, Chanel eyeshadows typically are very soft, and that's definitely not the exception among these. These are all quite soft, subtle eyeshadows. I'd say this is what the most impactful one, and it's all because of this shade here. This gold is actually more powdery than any other of the shades across the palettes. All three of these are that gelée formula that I talked about. This one is more of a sort of topper, like it's very loose, very little base, and it's really just like a gold sparkly topper. So bear that in mind, that these formulas do not have like fallout, they don't really have any kick up. This shade is the exception within this collection, that it is quite loose and sparkly and more powdery than any of the other shades in this collection. I do like this one. I think it's probably maybe my like second or third favourite. It's obviously not a very unique colour story, and I will say that as you're seeing the palettes close up, I have been using these, like I said, I've used these all multiple times, so that's why they all look a little bit worn and a little bit messier, but yeah, they definitely don't hold the tweed print for very long, so bear that in mind. That will go if you are going to be using these. But that is a beautiful palette. It gives a beautiful smoky effect and it is a bit more intense. I'd say if you have a more tanned or deeper skin tone, that would be the one to go for, because it's going to give you the most depth as opposed to any of the others. You're going to get more depth, more impact out of this one. And it's probably the most like nighttime as well of the four. Next up we have Tweed Pourpe. This is number 2, and this is obviously the purple in the collection. This is by far my least favourite of the 4. There's just very little impact and pigmentation there. Obviously Chanel eyeshadows typically are softer. It's not my favourite eyeshadow brand. I'm more of a like Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath kind of girl. I want like impact and really impactful shimmers and drama, and this one of all of these gives me like very little to work with. It's very hard to get really any like light and shade or depth. All of the shadows are very, very, very soft. It's a beautiful color story and it's very soft and pretty. Think if you're much fairer than me, this may give you a little more than it gives me, but yeah, very little difference between the formulas. They're kind of all pretty similar. There's not a lot of, you know, matte to shimmer or real intensity variations. This is a very, very soft, very, very muted, subtle purple quad. So bear that in mind, that you're not going to get much impact. It's going to be very, very soft and subtle, and that's why it's my least favourite of the 4, despite the fact that I really actually love the colour story. Next up we have number 3, Tweed Fauve. This is obviously the warm toned option among this collection. This is definitely one of my favourites. I said number 1 was like up there. I think the Tweed Pourpe is definitely my least favourite. I think in 3rd place we have number 1, which is Tweed Cuivre, the one I cannot say, and then I think this one is probably 2nd place. 3 and 4 are my favourites for sure. This is just peachy goodness. There's a nice balance of finishes in here as well. You've got a matte, a satin, and the shimmers, which are super pretty, and there's also a bit of variation between the shimmers. This one is more of a sort of subtle, smooth bit of shimmer, and then this one is like a bit more of a sort of metallic or sparkly shade. They work really beautifully, the combination. There's a lovely bit of warmth and you can richen it up, but it always stays still that muted, beautiful, pretty peach look, and this is super pretty. I've worn this a few times and I typically feel the need to go and get like a Pat McGrath special shade that's quite sheer and just tap it over the top to give me like that extra impact, but the color story is just stunning. So beautiful, so pretty. If you are like a Chanel formula lover and you love the brand's eyeshadows, this is a beautiful color story. You prefer that sort of softer, more muted look, you are going to be absolutely in love with this one. It's so pretty, particularly this peachy shimmer shade. Oh, it's so smooth, so like just subtle prettiness is what this palette is. I really like this one. Like I said, it's almost my favorite. It's the first one I used. Very buildable and blendable, and it really has a nice amount of gradient and also a nice amount of difference between the colors that you have and also the finishes that you have. So I think that's a really good choice if you want to get like the most for your money. And then of course you've worked out that this must be my favorite. This is number 4 and it is Tweed Brun Rose, and this is obviously like the cool toned quad of the collection. It's that stunning like taupey color. I absolutely love this color story. Again, it's got one of the more powdery sort of topper shades in it. Very pretty, but a bit more impactful. So it has that sort of rosy pink taupey mix going on in there. These 3 are, I'd say they're all pretty much satins. I don't know that I'd say any of them are full mattes. They are very smooth. Again, you've got a really nice balance of the like the depth of these shades, as well as like 2 shimmers to work with that are quite different, that give you some options, but they work together so beautifully. And I think this is probably the most unique of the available quads, the one that I feel like, oh, if you have a lot of eyeshadow, maybe you don't have something quite like this, especially from Chanel. Probably a more typically nighttime palette, but you can absolutely use it very softly because it does have some really soft, you know, if you just use the top shades, that would be a very soft daytime look. Beautifully cool toned, beautifully taupey and rose, very sort of winter, you know, that cool icy look to it. I really like this one. I appreciate that it's something a bit different, something a bit more cool toned. And again, like number 3, these two have the most variation in shades and depth, the most versatile, that you have something to build up and actually get quite a smoky look, but you also have a nice impactful shimmer in there as well. You're also getting a mixture of finishes, mattes and shimmers to work with, as well as a mixture of depths, which just gives you more to work with. Okay, so now you've had a look at all of the quads that are going to be available and seen the swatches, let's have a look at how they perform on the eyes. Okay, so that is all 4 of the demonstrations of these quads. And as I said at the beginning, my 2 favourites, number 3 and 4, and that's Tweed Fauve and Tweed Brun and Rose. Those are my picks from this collection. If you're looking for like the standout quads to pick, I definitely think number 4 is the most different. And it just really depends. Are you a warm-toned person or are you a cool-toned person as to which of those 2 you're going to like the most? But those are my picks. I think beware of number 2. It is very, very soft, very muted, but these are all very beautifully performing palettes. Very soft, very buildable, really no fallout other than those 2 sparkle shades that I told you about. They perform beautifully and they are that typical, very blendable, soft, smooth, flattering for more mature eyes formula that we expect from Chanel, with the little twist of the tweed pattern and the extra little touches of the pouch. This is a really nice and will be very popular collection for the brand, I'm sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope it will be helpful if you're trying to choose between these quads and prepare for this launch, whenever that may be, whenever that comes. I'd love to see you in the next video. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.